Superman will save us.
Lord.
The Cowboys players wanted to show unity, but they were very adamant about wanting to separate that message from the national anthem.
They still got booed. It's the same deal. It's like a half bow.
As they take a knee collectively, boos can be heard from this sellout crowd in Arizona.
Make no mistake, it's in the WikiLeaks. Even before Hillary lost, they said, we're losing. The public isn't listening anymore. We need to divide them. We need to control them and keep them under our control, to keep them helpless and in the dark. And Hillary responds, this was in the news, she says, I'm so sick of these baristas living in their mother's basements. What do they expect from me? Free health care? It's impossible. And they respond back, we recommend expansion of culture war. That means race war, men against women, left against right, and that's what they're doing with the NFL, bought and paid for now with globalist foundation money to do all this kneeling garbage. That's why the owners are behind it. That's why the teams are behind it. It's why the commissioner, when Trump said on Friday, he said, you disrespect our flag, you get off the field, you son of a bitch, you're fired. He said, no, Mr. President, you disrespect the NFL. That's the arrogance in the weird sycophant area of where people just worship these roid-head, coke-head players and the decadent, stupid owners. They've gotten so disconnected, they think they're America, so the globalists captured them, and now for the last 6, 7 years, it took Obama a few years, you suddenly saw anti-gun, anti-family, anti-America, and the ads and the corporations. It's the corporate money, the sponsorship money, as you said earlier, Jack Posobiec, is linked up to totally and absolutely control this. And that's why, because these people are mercenaries to sell their country out. That's why they're doing it, not for solidarity, not because they're against racism. No, they know it's a bunch of hype. They've been told to do it for sponsorships.
They know, and they looked at this. You remember Pepsi. We remember Pepsi, the change ads, the hope ads that were run. Those were Obama ads masquerading as Pepsi ads, because that's the way marketing works. Marketing is a psychological operation when it comes down to it. They are trying to get you to buy a product. But in this case, what they're doing is they've used that same information, those same tactics. They're marketing now political ideas. They're marketing, well, you should be on Obama's side. Use those words. We know those are Obama words, but we're going to match up with a Pepsi product. And then so now that link is made in your mind, every time you see that Pepsi can, you're linked with Obama. Every time you see it now, it's linked with NFL. And now it's all linked.
It's subliminal.
Yeah, it's completely.
And they admitted it was. I mean, here's an example. It was like 6, 7 Super Bowls ago, they had the Green Police Audi ads that show people being arrested for hot tubs because it takes too much energy, arrested for batteries, light bulbs. But a guy in an Audi gets to go around the checkpoint, the police state internal checkpoint, because he has an Audi. He's socially cool. I said, that was paid for, I guarantee you, by a big foundation, because even the Green Police uniforms were the real ones I've seen from Canada to Australia to the U.S. rolling out. Local, federal, doesn't matter. White top, green pants. They later admitted, a month later in the San Francisco Chronicle, that it was paid by a consortium of government and other think tanks to prepare people for the real rollout. And it was done on the NFL.
Yeah, and the people understand, Alex, Super Bowl ads, those cost a little bit of money. Those are not cheap ads. That is not cheap.
The average ad's over about $2 million.
Yeah, that is the most expensive.
It's like $5 million to air one.
You're going to have. Yeah, exactly. So they know, and they also know that they're getting their value for it. So there's going to be the most amount of messaging, the most amount of programming, the most amount of money.
And if you want to know what the elite want, you want to hear their mouth, watch the NFL. And it's, we hate America. We hate the flag. We hate the veterans. We want your guns. We hate families.
I think it was last year or 2 years ago, and when they came out and said, this is an anti-police halftime show. It was when Beyonce was doing it. It was just, yeah, we're going to.
And then she did simulated rioting. And again, the police aren't perfect like anybody, but they're making the revolution about overthrowing local government. That's a communist takeover. And people are like, Alex used to be anti-corruption because I wanted to save the police and not have them be tools of the globalists. I wanted them to be awake. And you know what? They are on average. And that's why the globalists are screwed.
Right, and Al Sharpton even came out and admitted that he said a lot of this is because we want a national police.
He said we're going to federalize it. In fact,
federalize.
You can search it, and he goes, we're doing all this because we're going to federalize the police. And they came out with the Strong Cities Initiative, who would sit over that federal board, the UN.
Precisely. So all of this was going, and you could read the tea leaves and see, like, why are they going against police? And then you saw when they said, oh, they're militarizing the police, they're getting military equipment, and you realize that they were going after local police. And if you pick up that one piece of information, that was the thread. And then you could tie it back to...
And you want to bully the locals into going federal because the globalists have taken over the feds. Then if the feds take over the locals, you have total control.
And suddenly you have a national internal paramilitary force.
That's right.
Being run. So you put it in those...
Getting orders from the UN with Loretta Lynch giving speeches saying it.
Right. So you put it in those words and they say, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist, you're crazy. No, wait, that is what you exactly said. That is what you're doing.
And the only reason the intelligence agencies turned against Hillary at the grassroots and middle levels was because they were being briefed on the internment camps and the re-education centers and on the communism and on all this and arresting governors and having a one-party state. And they said, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Everything Alex Jones said for 20 years or Ron Paul said is true. And I'm not bragging, but we read the enemy's attack plan. It sounded crazy because it is, but when they actually tried it, it didn't work. And now they're never going to get away with this now.
You've got those two levels, and obviously I can't speak into classified on this, but you've got essentially two levels where there's the political appointee level in the intelligence community, the DNI, the clapper level, right? And then you've got the rank and file, the members, the people that signed up that choose to live their lives in secret because they love their country and they want to do the right thing for the American people. So when they see stuff that's going on that they don't like, when they see stuff that they get fed up with, you better believe they're going to do something about it as best they can. And so that is where the big divide
That's
comes.
the civil war inside the deep state.
Right. And so that's what they saw with a lot of people. They said, oh, well, look at this guy, you know, when Snowden came out, well, he's a traitor. Manning came out, he's a traitor. But then you'd have other people say, wait a minute, I didn't know we did that. Wait, this program we're looking into people's phones. We're collecting that metadata, this metadata, but they didn't do anything wrong. Why do we don't have a warrant against them? This is completely
And it's political.
Yeah. So then you're realizing that their own training, their own indoctrination, their own programming is telling them to not do the things.
But under Obama, they put in people like Reality Winner that was trying to join ISIS and hated all whites. She was white. This guy at West Point saying, I'm a communist. We're going to take over and overthrow you at the graduation. They've put their people in. I mean, how deep's the penetration?
It's part of it is penetration from the political level, so it's going to stay up there, but it's this ideology that gets in there. It's a mind virus, Alex, you know this, and it's having people in there that already believe because they're listening to your liberal podcast, you're listening to this alt-left stuff, you're listening to these crazy Russia conspiracy theories, and Reality Winner, that's exactly who she was. She was somebody who bought into all of that, so she decided to break the law in order to help what she thought was the resistance, but actually she was helping the establishment.
She wanted to help ISIS as a woman, as a feminist. I mean, Che Guevara said Mexicans were, quote, roaches because they didn't want to live collectively and let him be their boss. He was a super racist a-hole. I mean, people don't know who are here in America just think whites are the only people that were ever class-driven. It's the same way all over the world in primitive systems. Latin America is completely caste-oriented about your skin color.
And multiple levels.
500 years of people not interbreeding, you know, with the natives. Hey, my dad's family did. And I'm not virtue signaling. It's true. I'm proud of some of my Native American history, but I'm proud of my European history as well. This is the mental illness. White people do what everybody else has done. Right, and that's it, to get you to have to come out there and say, well, this is what my background is, and I'm able to talk on these issues because, I mean, why are we even talking about this, Alex? Whatever happened to, let's not judge people by the color of their skin, but the content of their character? Whatever happened to that line? Well, they knew that line was not helpful to their program. They knew that line wasn't helpful to fomenting this type of anger and division and friction in the country, and so they turned it around and suddenly made people have to self-criminate. There were people who came out, there was an article, I can't remember exactly where it was, but this woman was writing it up, and she was African-American, then she found out that she was part Irish. So she found, and she said, oh my goodness, I can't believe that I'm part Irish, and I had to come to terms with what I've done, and suddenly, so wait a minute, whatever happened to individuals? She's a human. Now she's guilty because Irish might have had some slaves when per capita, Irish were the slaves, you dumbass. Right, so most of the sharecroppers were Irish. Yeah, you saw the Irish retreat. And the difference was retreated. Oh my God. Yeah, it's exactly right. These people are just, and now they're taking down the Lynch name, which is Irish everywhere, calling it racist.
Yeah, they're calling that race. It is an Irish name, comes from an Irish lord. That's where lynchings come from, the name Lynch. But we can't have that. Does that count for Loretta Lynch? Does she have to come down?
It just shows the total mental illness. Now, speaking of bowing to the system, as myself and Jack Subik just pointed out earlier, when they're bowing down, who's giving them the cultural orders? The MSNBC, the CNNs. Well, who loads their teleprompters? The CIA, the Ford Foundation, the Carnegie Foundation. George Soros funds everything from the Huffington Post to MSNBC to you name it, to the London Guardian. They're putting out the message, kneel. Now, during the ritual of America, the Star-Spangled Banner, the hand over the chest, don't have to do it if you want, but we're going to focus in on these spoil-rotten players doing it, and then now the owners and everyone else doing it in defiance of the president that's saying it's wrong and disrespectful to the veterans and the country, and why do you want to be here? This reminds me of Superman 2, when Zod comes into the White House and is saying, everybody kneel to Zod. Because once you kneel, virtue signaling you're not racist, because everyone's been beating you over the head with this made-up guilt. Now you'll kneel every time, and then now you'll call out your neighbors, call out your friends. Now, this is cultural Marxism, again, right out of the old Maoist system. So let's go ahead and play this clip and then dovetail it with the Cowboys last night. Who he thinks is the president?
You are not the president. No one who leads so many could possibly kneel so quickly.
I'm the man they're protecting. I'm the president. I'll kneel before you if it will save lives.
It will. Starting with your own.
What I do now, I do for the sake of the people of the world. But there is one man here on earth who will never kneel before you.
Who is this imbecile? Where is he?
I wish I knew.
Superman will save us.
Zod.
The Cowboys players wanted to show unity, but they were very adamant about wanting to separate that message from the national anthem.
They still got booed. It's the same deal. It's like a half bow.
As they take a knee collectively, boos can be heard from this sellout crowd in Arizona.
Wow.
You know how all this happened. They were blackmailing them over buying the college athletes. They were blackmailing the Obama Justice Department, how they were paying folks to illegally spear people and take key players out of the game. It is gladiatorial. Let's not lie about what it is, but they were breaking the rules. And also the concussions. So the government spiked all those investigations about 6-7 years ago. They peaked it, and they took over the jewel of propaganda, the NFL.
And who was, Alex, if you remember, the special counsel that they brought in to investigate the NFL who totally cleared Roger Goodell? What was his name?
Oh.
It was Robert Mueller. The very same Robert Mueller who is now brought in again to investigate as a special counsel of the president. The very same man.
And it was the FBI director from before him who they brought into Penn State to cover up that old pedophile ring.
But no, the deep state isn't real. But no, tell me the deep state isn't real. When you say
they came in and said, we know you're cheating in key plays with Vegas. That's billions. We know you're rigging some games, mainly plays. So it's hard to rig the whole NFL. And we're going to bust you on that. And that's why, just like J. Edgar Hoover and other directors said until the mid-50s, there is no such thing as La Cosa Nostra or Our Thing or the Mafia, because the Italian Mafia was paying him off.
Right, because they knew that if they were putting that up, that this was when Whitey Bulger was in there, when they supported Whitey Bulger, taking out all the other families. The FBI helped different parts of the mob to go after other parts of the mob. So essentially, the FBI was in the mob business at that point.
And they now admit, I remember covering it 6, 7, 8 years ago, the CIA was taking out 4 of the 5 cartels to where there's basically only 1 left. And then they make a whole movie with real people.
Medellin.
That movie, Sicario, that means assassin, that's a really true story. And I even know people that were there, involved, all that stuff. That whole story really happened. That's just one little snapshot of the CIA, and they make a movie with Hollywood stars showing you what that movie basically happened just as they show it.
I can't believe that movie got made. And you notice that once that movie came out, nobody was talking about it. They weren't getting major awards. It wasn't getting played again. It wasn't, nobody really talks about it. It sits there. But I've talked to people in the Special Forces community. I've talked to people in the intelligence community that say, yeah, this is true. This is exactly what we do. It's a war that's going on right there on the border, and no one's talking about it.
And that particular story isn't just a composite. That's one of the things that happened.
Right, because they knew the CIA, and this is what they always do. It's part and parcel, to borrow Sadiq Khan's phrase, of what they've been doing since the 50s, even before then, is to say they look at the cartels, Alex, as a regime. They look at the cartels because they know who's really in charge.
They see it as a government.
Right, they see it.
And they say, we're going to just be working with one government or maybe two to play them off against each other if we need to. And there you go.
So all we need to do is get the one that's willing to be in bed with us.
And what did Bannon say? He said they sold our jobs and brought in the drugs. He's telling everybody in Alabama, the government brings in the drugs, we're going to stop it. And that's what Trump's doing. They're actually wiping out all the little distribution cartels. They're wiping out the Mexican mafia. They're just getting killed. Right now, they're all being just stacked up, thrown in the river.
They've got to go after the Sinaloas. They've got to go after the Zetas. There are places in Mexico, Alex, where the cartel...
And again, Obama and the globalists did that on purpose.
Yeah, they knew.
Trump's doing Mexico a favor, actually shutting it down. He says, we're not going to have that disorder up here.
You think we're
not going to have a narco state in America? Kill them all.
You think they want to be living in a Mexican narco state? No. That's what Giuliani said. He had the hat. It said, make Mexico great again also. Why shouldn't we? We don't want a failed state like Somalia on our southern border.
No.
We want a prosperous...
And Trump's seen the actuaries that if you actually boost our wages, it's going to boost Mexican wages. Just like Ross Perot said. Donald Trump's the best friend the Mexicans ever had, I'm telling you right now. But they're trying to stop him. We're going to go to break, Jack, continue on a little bit. But I want to tape some more stuff with you, even though we're live and Paul Watson's coming up, because we're on fire, man. I like having you in person here.
This is good, man. Over the Skype, there's sometimes a little glitch, a little hot, but this is it. This is real. This is as real as it gets, man.
I like having you here. I mean, they need to talk about getting you here part of the time. But, I mean, where do you live right now? I'm
out of D.C. Unfortunately, I'm in the swamp. I'm in the swamp with the beautiful and lovely Tanya Tay. So she is the one reason that I keep going back. She actually, we're getting married in a couple of weeks here.
Yes. Absolutely.
Which they always want to attack. They always want to go after. How dare you show two American young adults just getting married in a religious ceremony?
I know. This is really blasphemous. Stop right now.
Oh, I've got to
Folks,
stop.
Vitamin Mineral Fusion's been sold out for a while. We just got more in and out of the gates. It's all the vitamins, all the minerals, the key amino acids for upload beyond any multivitamin out there. Tastes great. Totally natural, organic, InfoWarsLife.com. It's back in stock. 50% off. That's the new special. Secret 12 Secret 12 is 40% off. Emmerich's Essentials oils now in. Take our frankincense. Okay, it sells in stores for $30. The exact same one, we're selling it for $20. There's your example. Other stuff that sells for $20 in stores, we're selling for $14. So we have new essential oils, InfoWarsLife.com or 888-253-3139. Your purchase is absolutely needed. It's essential. Thank you all for your support. Jack Posobiec visiting us from the D.C. swamp is here. Great guy, really smart fella. Paul Watson's coming up from London, England. We might coast a little bit with him in the next hour, but I don't want to take up Paul's time. I love to listen to him myself. Always learn a lot. Infowars.com, newswars.com, Jack Posobiec. You can also follow him on Twitter. Very important to do that and support the work he's doing at Jack Posobiec. Citizensfortrump.com. We've got big national polls out where the vast majority of Americans, depending on the poll, 65 to almost 75 or 80%, depending on the poll you look at, say that they are just totally against the NFL, including black folks, Hispanics, you name it. They're just turning everything into a drama party. You want to watch an NFL game where it's like 90% black guys anyways getting paid on average $5 million a piece, oppressed, and they're living here in the lap of luxury, bitching all day. And statistically, cops kill 200 and something black people a year. Most of it justified. I'm not defending the cops, but there's some bad shootings cops do, but it's the #1 issue in the world. It's a diversion on how we're all having our America stolen, and the globalists want us to fight with each other while they do it, Jack.
Kneeling down. I really like focusing on this topic. I think it's very important, the actual optics of kneeling, because it's not an American thing. As you know, they used to kneel to the kings and queens, right? That was the British, that was the monarchy, that's who you knelt to, that's who you genuflected to. When George Washington became president, he never said kneel. He said, you stand, you shake my hand, I'm going to be Mr. President, not your excellency, not your grand poobah, whatever. It's just Mr. President, shake my hand, very nice to meet you. And so kneeling down, basically genuflecting, giving supplication to something. This is not an American thing to do. It is the only time you'll really see Americans do this is when they're praying. When there's prayer involved, when you're praising God, when you're doing something like that, it has nothing to do with politics. So entering this genuflection, they say that you must genuflect.
It's classic Soviet
kowtow,
where you go into the group community and do this, and then say you're guilty.
Right, and so now all of your recriminations are coming forward. All of you're doing is you're saying that this has power over me.
You're saying the state is God. You're supposed to get on your knees at midnight or in the early morning when and tell God you repent of things you've done. You don't tell in a football stadium, mainstream media, you're my God, I'm bad, tell me what to do. That is sick.
And you realize they're not taking a knee to Trump. So I'd love to talk to any one of these guys and say, who are you taking a knee to? Who specifically do you have in mind when you're taking that knee?
They're kneeling to political correctness and hating white people.
That's all it is.
They're kneeling to white genocide.
And they won't admit it.
And then I don't want anybody to be genocided, but everywhere it's kill the whites, kill the whites. The universities, no whites can come on campus. It's a bunch of weird white people going, we need to kill all the white people. Just everywhere. Hillary, we lost because of white people. It's the most racist, weird, anti-Martin Luther King crap I've ever heard. Martin Luther King would say, you people are crazy. We'll be right back with hour number 4 with Jack Posobiec, myself, Alex Jones, Paul Joseph Watson, and more. Remember, it's this crew making it all happen, and you out there, the listeners. InfoWarsStore.com. Finance us and piss off the globalist.
What the aging process is when the cell replicates, we lose a little bit of our telomeres. Telomeres are the little cups on the end of our chromosomes.
And when it runs out, you start dying. Secure your DNA force today at InfoWarsLife.com.